I guess the cold open was easier. Now I'm thinking too much.
No, yeah, it's tough, but it's fine. I think it's just like, let me, a little reiki, it's a little sexual.
That's what that's what we make editors for.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
I believe in you, Marcus. You can do
Marcus.
this.
Thank you,
You can make
Marcus.
us look good.
Sorry, bro.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Mix Minute. In this series, we are going to open up sessions with engineers, producers, mixers, and they're going to show how they recorded and mixed certain tracks. And we're going to sit down with a bunch of different people. But in this first episode, I want to introduce you to my co host of the series, Steve Stout. Say hello, Steve.
Hello.
Hello, you're supposed to
Hello.
say hello, Steve.
Oh, hello,
Uh,
Steve. Oh, yeah.
Steve
Nailed
and
it.
I met a few years ago. I was working at Focusrite, and he dropped us a line wanting to get into some Focusrite gear, and we kind of just hit it off. So we've stayed in touch since then. I've worked with him when I was at Soyuz. We did some stuff together, and uh, and yeah, when we were doing the Soyuz stuff, I was at his house one day dropping off some mics, and he was showing me a session that he had mixed. It was one of his own songs, and was showing all these layers of vocals and the way that he was crafting sounds with plugins and stuff in really unique ways. And I thought it was super interesting. I mean, I was just kind of like sitting there, and he's doing like an impromptu presentation basically. And so I thought, wouldn't that be fun to do that with all kinds of people and have Steve join me because he does this stuff every day in terms of like making music. So yeah, Steve, you're a Berkeley grad.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
in a few different bands.
Yep, yep, yep.
You're in Lifehouse, which you joined as the guitarist,
Yeah,
and then you're in a band with the Lifehouse founder and lead singer Jason Wade called Oswald,
yeah. Yeah,
and then you have your solo stuff.
yeah, we, a few years into, playing the Lifehouse shows, he was like, hey, I might need a new engineer at some point for my studio because he's always kind of had um, a studio of his own. And I kind of like had just sort of started to get into like doing co-writing with people and stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
ended up with like another band on the side called Lost Beach in the beginning. And, I was producing all that stuff. And then we kind of started to work together just like in a studio capacity. And then, we were sort of trying to write for sync one day and we were like, maybe we should just like, we wrote like a bunch of songs really fast where we were both singing and writing. And like, maybe we should just like make this like, give it like a band name. And even if it's like just a sync thing. And then we just kind of kept
Yeah.
doing it for fun, even if, so yeah, we've made like 7 records with that band in like 5 years or something
Well,
silly.
that's one of the
So
things, yeah, in terms of the sync stuff and just having fun. That's one of the things that I really like about you guys, like that you do a lot of original stuff, but you've also done these cover albums of they did a whole
oh yeah.
Beatles cover album, they did a whole cover album of ELO songs, which
Mm,
Jeff Lynne is God, so
yeah, those
praise
were
be.
hard. Those are really hard. I was like, come on,
And
man.
yeah, they sound so cool. I mean, you guys
Thanks,
like have
man.
put your own spin on it, and yeah, everything has. I feel like everything you do has that like vintage vibe,
Thanks,
which
man.
is what I really like about it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us what are we going to be looking at today?
Yeah, so this is a song. This is one of my solo songs called "The Ones They Adore." It's like a verse 2 or verse 1 lyric or something. You're always trying to find the. It wasn't like a chorus, line title, but this song started as like an experiment basically with my friends at Audioscape who make really awesome, faithful recreations of vintage outboard compressors. And they, uh, they're quite a bit more affordable than a lot of other options out there, which is nice for folks like myself. And so I had kind of had my eyes on their LA-2A clone called the Opto, so just the Audioscape OptoComp, and thought it would be fun to kind of to show it off as just like to me an LA2A is like when I started with my Apollo Twin, I would just print everything through the LA2A plugin on the way in just to have like just something, like when I work with Jason, he's got a bunch of different compressors and we're pretty much compressing most things on the way in. So I wanted to just get something like that happening here for myself
Whenever you do that, are you aggressive with your compression on the way in, or are you
I used to
like,
be way more aggressive, and now I've lightened up a little bit, but it just depends on the source. Vocals I'm pretty heavy. And but like and like maybe like an overhead I might be pretty heavy, but like stuff like acoustic I'm probably not squashing it. Electric guitar I barely tap it because I don't like when electric gets too smushy. So those kind of things I'm kind of just like, you're getting those tubes and you're getting like that just the extra transformers of that box.
yeah,
So anyway, so basically, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna like write a song, record it, kind of film. I literally recorded a lot of it like sitting next to it on like a my organ bench. And so you could kind of see the what I was doing and like the needle move and stuff. And but yeah, I actually like got a song done in one day, had the performance video edited and like it's kind of this cool, just I'll play a little bit, but it's just like a kind of cool indie tune. Very guitar forward, and some quirky synths and stuff. So yeah, I'll play a little bit of the song for you here, just to kind of get the vibe of like the whole mix together. Vocals.
It's too late, they're already gone. I guess they found what they're looking for.
So yeah, it was it's kind of started on acoustic. I wrote it on acoustic. So that was the first thing I recorded. It's my old '60s Gibson Hummingbird acoustic, which really dead strings. It sounds awesome. And I use the Soyuz O17 tube mic on this, and I doubled it. And just for kind of reference, like my usual chain that's happening here for most things, like especially when I'm overdubbing like singular instruments, I pretty much always hit the Soyuz Launcher Deluxe first because it's just like there's a saturate mode that you can use even with condenser mics that's just like
yeah.
extra
It's
transformers.
transformers. Yeah. So you're doing double transformers, the 17 into the
Yeah.
launcher door.
Yeah, and honestly, like before I had this compressor, I kind of used it because it just almost felt a little bit compressed, like going through that before I hit my Worm Audio WA273-EQ is the model number, but it's a two channel like 1173 basically
I've noticed that. Quick
preamp.
side note: I've noticed that about the launcher deluxe. That transformer, it's like it almost it's like rounds off the transients just slightly, like it's a little bit smoother,
Yeah,
kind of like you
it
just
kind of
said.
just
It's
makes
like a compression
everything
kind of
sound
vibe.
better.
Yeah.
I haven't found a situation where it makes anything sound not better.
I even use it
So,
for my film work when I have a boom mic and stuff. A lot of times I run it
oh
through
yeah,
that,
yeah,
the Launcher
yeah.
Deluxe with the
It
Sennheiser
just adds.
416.
Oh yeah, yeah. It definitely just adds another level of like just weight and like it sounding expensive because like we're
Yeah, that's
competing with people
exactly
that
it. Yeah.
like I don't have a console in here. I have like a couple of preamps of different flavors, and I'm not coming back. I think a thing that people don't really like. Everyone talks about like, oh, mixing on a console, blah blah blah, but like what people I don't think talk about enough is that that's another time you're hitting preamps.
Yep.
So like I'm kind of trying to get as much of that in the front so I
Yeah.
don't have to go back out afterwards.
Yeah, that's the thing, and
So
we talked about this recently. Like that, a lot of producers and engineers that I know of now, who have been
yeah,
analog people in the past, are
yep,
now crafted. You craft a solid input chain. It's all analog. Then once it's
yeah,
in the box, it stays in the box, and you don't go back
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just about finding those pieces of gear
Mm,
that fit your sound on the way in, and
yeah,
then when we were looking at this mix earlier, it was kind of ironic to me that I wanted to do this
yeah,
series with you because you do all this crazy stuff with plugins like I was talking about, and you basically
yeah,
use like no plugins on this mix.
yeah. Yeah, it was like I love the plugins, but it was a fun there's like a couple here and there for little things, but like it was a fun, I try to be really honest in like the gear video stuff to be like if I'm showing off this compressor, if it's then going through like a bunch of plug-in compressors, that doesn't seem like very honest.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
explanation of how I would use it. So I have my mix bus off right now, which is just like two Acoustica plugins that are adding a bit more like kind of just console weight and compression, tiny bit of EQ, and I kind of so there's a couple EQ points I kind of just always boost a little bit, which maybe isn't the right thing to do, but like a little 1.5, a little bit of the 50 for the kick. Like I kind of have a couple of little tricks like that I do on like honestly almost every song. So that's off right now. But yeah, it's pretty bare bones on this one. Like those acoustics are, I was hitting a couple dB on the compressor and I doubled them. So this is what those sound like. And the track sounds like it's almost like it would be a strummy thing, but they're finger picked the whole time, which is kind of an interesting thought. Like it doesn't ever get strummy because this Jazzmaster part that's going through like a phaser pedal, and I think it's my hand-wired Vox AC15, which is awesome sounding through the Soyuz. It's only here because I was going to try to use it as a talkback mic, but I swear that's not a product plug. But I love this mic so much. This is like my kick drum mic, all of my guitar amps. I don't even think about trying anything else anymore. And we honestly went from using a new U67 reissue, reissue Neumann at Jason's studio on the guitar amps, which sounds like a silly use of a $6,000 mic. But it sounded so good, and that's what like the Beatles use,
Right.
So we went from that, and we recently switched to the 1973 just to free up that mic to be a vocal mic more.
Yeah.
And I don't even know I could tell the difference of
dude
like,
that thing. Did you see that Pete Thorne did a video at Sweetwater where he shot out? They shot out like
I don't think I did.
Basically every guitar cab mic you could think of, 121, 421, everything.
Yep.
And that little 1973 beat everything in the test they
did.
Dude,
I don't like the idea of the tracks and the phase of the 57 Royer thing. Like I love the sound of a Royer and stuff. I don't know that I love the sound of a 57 on an amp. Hot take. But like,
no, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
No, it sounds like something's missing. And then the whole idea of like, oh, we'll just put this other one there. I'm like, it shouldn't need two. Like
that was the caveat
amazing.
of that shootout that they did at Sweetwater was like the sound they were testing was like unmixed, and the 1973 was the one that like without doing anything to it sounded the closest to what they wanted it to be. Like yes, maybe you could mix this 121 and 57 combo and get it to sound more what you want, but
you definitely have a lot of control. I like how Tim Pierce does it where he blends them into like something like a TG2 or whatever it is, and then he blends it to one. So it's like he commits on the way in. Like I think if I was going to do it, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
And I've used like a ribbon next to that before for stuff where it was like that real like desert rock indie like Jazzmaster, but you kind of want that real almost like baritone kind of low end out of it. But like honestly, I think you could just like boost a little low end on that mic and it would do the same thing. So it's like I don't know.
It's good mic.
Path of least resistance. Yeah, for sure for me. So this is a little bit of that Jazzmaster part that's on the left of the mix. So just like real jangly, phasey. Feels very reminiscent of this band Real. Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Me a lot of I was just gonna say it reminds me a lot of this band Real Estate that I love. They're always doing stuff like that, the phaser.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, the next thing down here, the other guitar is this Baldwin guitar I have from the 60s that's like really funky. You can literally, I think one of the sound like it'll do like half of the pulls from one pickup and half from the other. Like it's like really might be low impedance or I don't know. It's really strange, but it's a really cool guitar, and I actually mic'd. I put a room mic up too, so that might be. I think it's the mono ribbon stager mic I have over my drum kit.
Is that the supercardioid stager ribbon?
Yeah.
Or is it nice?
Yeah, it's the one that like I think he made for basically like vocals to kind of like I know AEA has a mic like that.
The KU5A,
almost like an SM7 kind of like thought,
Yeah.
But that's my mono overhead on my drums, and Honestly, if I am going to switch the guitar amp mic out, that's the other one I use, because it's just a little bit, you know, less shiny,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is a nice flavor to have too. For if the part's like really really bright.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that's what that 1973 does. And you were asking earlier when we were chatting about the bomblet, the 023
oh yeah, yeah.
Soyuz. It's the same capsule as that 1973, and it has that
Is
too.
it a little darker than the 73,
It
or is it
is.
about the same kind of?
It,
That's
it
cool.
it's basically the 1973 with a transformer.
Nice.
It's like other than that,
That's
it's mostly the same circuitry, and it doesn't have
yeah.
the 1973 has this bizarre little cone that sits on front of the capsule. That's like it's
Oh.
almost like a diffuser. It's called a resonator. Um,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
because
They
they
like to.
when
Oh
they
yeah,
what
yeah.
the reason there are other large diaphragm condensers or lollipops is
It's
because
like the
it does add resonances. Yeah, exactly. Having it
yeah
inside of that,
bounces around in the
so they
head.
built that
Yeah,
little diffuser thing on it.
yeah. I could
Um,
see it in my when I shine my
yeah,
like
you can see it at certain
my little
angles.
light here.
It's so
That's
goofy,
funny.
but yeah, it's like it also
It makes
breaks up
sense though.
plosives too. If you've noticed,
I was gonna say I think that yeah, yeah, because when we did that video together for Soyuz, like that fadeaway song, I didn't use a filter or anything.
yeah,
I was just like right up on it,
it's like
and
a happy little accident when they designed that mic. Um,
yeah, yeah. No, I feel like I feel like the 017 isn't very plosive either. Honestly, it's just yeah, like I have the filter, but I don't. I put it on when other artists come over just in case, but
yeah,
I don't
you
always use
just do the
it.
Beatles thing, man. The technique.
Yeah, I just hold them in.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just like
I
yeah.
try to do that, and
Uh,
then I always forget.
it's hard. Yeah, it's definitely can be hard. It's like you got to start kind of yeah.
Oh,
But
this is what I was gonna say. The reason I brought up the 023. Your kick mic, dude. That's what the
mhm.
guy that does all the
Oh
Tiny
yeah,
Desk concerts, Josh Rogerson. That's like all that's
uh
on his kick every time now.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I used this guy on the kick because I knew that people use the
yeah,
bomb
because
light, and
it's the same capsule. Yeah,
yeah, so I'm like, if I hit the transformers in the launcher, you know, maybe I'm getting somewhat close to the idea of
dude.
that.
Actually, if you're interested in that 023 Mill
Mhm.
Sounds on YouTube, my
Oh,
dude
I watched
Matt,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
He did a
Those
video
videos.
where he compared the 023 versus the 1973 through a launcher, because then it's like technically,
Oh
you've
yeah,
added
yeah,
the
the same.
transformer
Yeah, yeah,
back
yeah.
in.
I think I watched a little bit of that. I gotta go watch it again because that's
Yeah,
yeah. I
it
feel
was a
like
good video.
yeah. So yeah, I'll play a little bit of this Baldwin guitar. It's got like it's through my Mood Chase Bliss pedal,
Oh, nice.
and I'll play actually a little bit of kind of like the intro riff, but then like I'll find a spot later on where I like leaned into that momentary switch where it gets like really psychedelic and weird. Um, but yeah, there's like a vibrato. I think probably the Walrus Julia or something as well. So here's a little bit of that.
Dude,
It's
that
like
sounds
very
so
oh, there it
rad.
is. Yeah. So then like later on in the bridge where it gets really trippy,
That's exactly what that is trippy.
so that's that oscillation, and you can go down there and
Oh,
like
that's in the Chase Bliss pedal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's weird. It's like so you can kind of get down there and just start like twisting knobs, and it's like if a Space Echo kind of was going forever. It's sort of that same idea,
Hmm.
um, that you can kind of get down there and start tweaking on it. There's also a part in the chorus that's like I think it's this Templo Devices Real Deal Lux, which is like it's basically like the dirt from a I'm trying to think of which like a real is it like a realistic that company maybe like tape machine, one of the tape machines that's like a vertical guy, but it's this kind of there's just a direct. I have a lot of room mic, so it's that kind it's
Yeah.
kind of like the color box and all those kind of like direct in sounds. So yeah, that's all the guitars on this guy. It's just those two, and the acoustic. I got a little bass, which is my old Fender Music Master bass. It's the like quintessential hipster bass that everybody's got.
Dude,
With a pick,
that's
flat
like a very
wounds.
Beatles sounding bass tone. I love it.
Yeah, it's through I think it's through that Vox amp too. Like
Oh, cool.
I don't know. I think I saw a Dr. Dog video or something once, and they said that they um always did like basses through little amps. So I started doing it, and I was like, oh yeah, it just sits in the mix. It sounds done. Like
Oh,
no
interesting. So
more.
do you do DI bass at all, or you always go through an amp
Nope.
like that? Wow.
No, I have. Yeah, I don't. And I think I let my kicks be a little bit more of like the sub,
Yeah.
and I kind of use the bass to cut a little above it usually, but I honestly just haven't felt like I need more um low end than that. I don't know. I mean, I know this video I just watched, like a Warren Hewitt video, who's like, my mixes went from like, you know, good to like pro when I started doing the DI and all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like I'm sure they did, but like I don't know. I feel like I've been trying lately to tune out some of those, like spiraling out, watching too many
And it's
videos like
so
the
hard,
one we're
man.
making
Yeah.
right now. Yeah,
It's like
it's
the
like
the hardest lesson I learned as an engineer was being more reserved. Whenever you first get into this thing
yeah,
and you're really into it and you want to use every plugin and you want to
yeah,
get every piece of gear. And I'm like,
yeah,
why are my mixes, after I had been doing this stuff for a year, I'm like, why do my mixes sound worse now than when I didn't know how to mix? And I was like, trying,
dude. Dude, that's exactly what, like, I've gone through that so many times
yeah,
and been like, yeah, when I like had just like an isotope crack and like the Logic
yes,
plugins, and I made songs that sound great still, like, um but I think also it like this session with not a lot of plugins, a lot of it is just like being good at like writing the parts, and
right.
like but so that's where, like, when people are like, if you just have to mix someone else's work, it can be so much harder, because like
Oh
a lot of
yeah,
times, like, people want the bass to sit way different than I would, but like I just like, you know, at this point I kind of like, I've gotten to a place where like I kind of want the bass to sit in the same place every time. Like I kind of can't not do the Paul McCartney bass thing. So like I either do the pick, or like I'll do like the thumb for like a more mellow thing. But like I'm not getting this like super subby bass part ever anymore, because it's just like I know that this works. So
yeah. I
I
think
just
that
kind of
that's
keep.
like part of, let me speak for you. But yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like you're more of a traditional producer in that, if you were strictly a mixer, you'd be getting mixes from people and
yeah,
they all have their own thing and whatever. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but as a producer, you've crafted like your palette of sounds. And I think that's
Mm,
why, people like to work with you because they like that bass sound that you have, or they like that drum sound that you have.
yeah.
Um,
I definitely think it. Yeah, most of my stuff ends up being like I have very little just like outside like mixing only work, and most of it is like um producing, but like a lot of it too is like it's really fun when like I've got a buddy Adam in LA that I work with. I think his artist name is it Adam James. I feel like I'm gonna mess it up. But he's a great guitar player. He's been in a bunch of bands. Great singer, has a super cool tone, does all these cool harmonies. He has like an upright piano in his like apartment, and so like he'll play a lot of the parts sometimes, and then I'll do like bass and drums, or
yeah,
like some songs I do more, but it just really depends on the song. But yeah, I think like a lot of the sound of it for me is coming in the front end.
yeah,
It's like what it just already is. Probably I feel like someone I like recently realized from the the I'm Just Ken version that they did in like the studio that was live, that was like super just like beautiful Florence and the Machine vibe. I was like, I think I just am trying to be Mark Ronson slowly but surely, but um and I'm like budget Ronson, but but that's
warm
fine.
audio
I'm
Ronson.
totally, yeah. No offense to anyone,
Yeah.
like but Warm Radio is great now, so maybe
Yeah,
I'll get there.
the first piece, you're probably similar to me. I learned all this stuff strictly with plugins.
Mm,
Uh, and
yeah.
then at one point my first piece of analog gear was the Warm Audio WA-76. And I remember
Yep.
like the first time I used that, I was kind of like my perception of reality was shattered a little bit. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
quote, shitty piece of analog gear sounded better than a lot of
Yeah.
the like expensive 1176 plugins. And I
It
was
just does
like,
something
oh,
completely different. Like
yeah,
there's also just like a it's like amps, you know, it's like there's just like a character that you get even if you don't hit the thing. Like it's
Yeah.
there's something there's just like a sound. I almost, when I pick compressors like over at Jay's where he's got a bunch more, I'm always going for like it's much less about what this is and more about like um I know this one's going to add low end, like stuff like that,
Yeah.
or I know that like the high end is different on this one, or like I know how much like bigger this one's going to make it sound, or like how much like more excited. Like I think of it like almost more of like what the outcome would look like without thinking about the needle. And
Mm,
like 1176s are very exciting sounding because it
right.
can be so fast and like um you know that obviously like the LA-2A style on this song is like it's still very transparent with this compressor too. I've noticed this one is nice and fast for an LA-2A. Um, and I talked to Chris over there about it. He's like, yeah, ours is a bit faster than like some of the other ones, which I prefer because sometimes they're just
Yeah.
like I don't know what you could put that on and that be useful, you know. But this one is like nice and transparent and like it doesn't overly like just like suck the life out of anything if you hit it too hard. It's like
Yeah.
very you can really kind of pound it and it sounds incredible. So
Yeah,
so some
these
some
all
ex-
still sound like pretty clean, most of the tracks by themselves. And
yeah,
then
yeah, none of like I'll show you the drum overhead in a minute, which is probably the most obviously compressed thing, but it still has transients. You know, it doesn't
mhm.
sound like smush. You know, but yeah, let's check out some of these keyboard parts. So I had done like a lot of the stuff that was like, I made a video that was like through the compressor, most of the basics tracks and the vocals, but then I did add a couple like sprinkly things, most of which are these kind of keyboard layers, which the first one is this chord mini log XD that I have that such a cool little synth that has like effects built in that sound really good. Um, but yeah, this is it in the intro part. Very 80s, you know? Or yeah, or like I don't even know, Toto or something.
Where's that? Can you play the full mix so I can hear where that's like?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's on the left, yeah. It pokes it. You hear it there. I like synths like that almost still kind of sound like they're in that guitar frequency territory. I don't know how
Yeah,
to explain that, but like
yeah.
where like the texture of it maybe still sounds kind of like, but on its own, it's pretty
Like
80s
it's
for sure.
almost layered with the guitar, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I think that those sounds too are the things that kind of keep songs from sounding like the whole like you mentioned like the vintage thing, but it's like if you don't blend in, it's almost like a best of all of like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Like I think if you can do a proper blend of like bringing some of those synths in, then all of a sudden I think the song sounds quite a bit more modern and relevant than like just like, oh cool, they're doing the 70s bit, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that can kind of pigeonhole you, and I think that's not really that
yeah.
exciting to me. But halfway through that intro, these Mellotron flutes come in.
Oh, that's a classic Mellotron there, dude.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, little meow
Pew!
at the end. But they just sit in the mix so good. And then there's also the
Do you
steel
have? Is
guitar
that a
sound.
plugin or is it an actual Mellotron?
Oh no, it's like the you know how they have like the digital Mellotrons that like a lot of bands tour with
Oh,
now?
the
It's the
like the micro or the
yeah, so I
something
have
like
the
that.
micro. It's the I really thought it would fit on my desk and it's like just a little too big to leave out all the time, but it's got like 100, it's got like most of the same sounds
Oh,
basically.
cool.
And it's like and the keys still feel like super super nice. I think it has aftertouch even. Like there's some pretty bougie stuff that keyboard still has going on in it, and the sounds just sound. I've had every Mellotron plugin. Arturia sounds probably the best that I've
Mm-hmm.
tried, and those are really great. I used to use those constantly, but there's just something about this one. They've never sold those sounds as a plugin, and like they just are the best ones. Like there's
Oh
no
man.
everybody uses it for a reason. But yeah, the steel guitar sound I found is wild. This is in the intro also.
That literally it sounds like a guitar.
Yeah,
That's the Mellotron?
yeah, that's the Meltron, and
Wow,
all
that's
pretty
cool.
much just because of where it's on my desk. Like I put it to the left of the computer, and that's where I have my EchoFix EF-X2 is the model. But it's basically like a new, just like functioning and incredible sounding Space Echo.
Dude,
So I have
the
that on the
Echo Fix
left.
stuff is so rad, man. I'm like such a
It's so
sucker
good.
for maybe gimmicks too, like the whole like transparent top where you can see the tape winding and
Oh,
unwinding. I'm
dude.
like, that's so fucking cool.
Oh, well, that's like the desktop one. Yeah, I've
Yeah. Oh,
almost
you
got
have
the
the
desktop
rack mount
one.
one.
I have well, no, no, not the. I have the like one that looks like a Space Echo, the like
Oh,
old
okay.
school like
Yeah, I know which one you're talking
box.
about.
Yeah. Um, but it kind of, and I got the green because it kind of matches. I do have basically Jason had this Echoplex and Space Echo, who knows how long. And he's like, hey, it'll work. Like, I don't know. Let's just buy like some ones that work. So we went on Reverb and bought like EP3. That sounds great. And or actually at that time we bought the Tube Tape Echo, the full tone one, and then we got just like a 201, like a Roland Space Echo with the reverb. And so I took these and they didn't work, and I had tried to record them at one point years ago and was like, "Oh, I feel like these could be like the final frontier," and they just didn't work. But uh Shane at EchoFix, he makes these little kits that instead of spending like $400 to go to a tech, it's just like you replace like the wheel, that like the main kind of roller wheel,
Hmm.
and like a couple little important parts, and then it's new tape. And like all of a sudden they like both started working again, and I
Oh,
was
wow.
like, sweet. Because and Jay was like, if you can get them to work, do yours. It was like that kind of like, we just need to like keep moving and like get the stuff that's going to function. Um yeah, so that works great. The Echoplex that I have, it's an EP4. The motor needs a little love, which I do think Shane, maybe there might be something coming down the pipeline at some point in that world
Oh,
that
cool.
might help me out. But yeah, so I run those both on my desk. So like the Mellotron always just gets printed through that EchoFix tape echo, because it's like I just take like a little patch cable, just it's right there, and then I already have that EchoFix, like it's already just comes up in my session as like an input. So it's just the quickest way to do it. Plus then I can like rock the reverb and the echoes and do the
Yeah.
stuff, and just give it a little more sauce on the way in so that it sits in the mix a little cooler. Um, and it sounds a little different from like everyone has that Mellotron, so then you're kind of in that box of like trying to have some sort of unique thing on top of that.
Yeah.
um so yeah, that's kind of like the main stuff there. There's like some other parts later on. There's like the classic violins that you know these things always work. 16 violins and like a chorus is always great. They're tucked, but
Yeah.
and then the steel guitar again is kind of like the left
I
right
can get over that,
pair.
dude. It sounds like a steel guitar.
It's so sick. And then I have a pair of like pianos from the Mellotron in the bridge. And yeah, like this Korg. I'll just kind of solo them all up. The Korg synth again that comes in. So right at the top of the bridge. Pretty cool stack. And then here is
Dude, what
like,
is that? Oh, okay. I thought that was coming out of the piano though. Whir, whir.
that's that Mini Log XD.
That's so
And then
goofy. That sound, dude.
yeah, and it sounds like Pete's Dragon or something. It's like oh, those are the tape echoes.
What's that
So I
sound like
printed them
oh, this is in
stereo.
that bridge part. Okay.
Yeah, this is the weird bridge. So like,
Singing for
so that's where that mood pedal is going crazy too.
never got a clapping hands. One by one.
And the jazz master is doing the like, we're like pulling up on the whammy bar like with the chords. That's a classic play. Stole that from Silver Sun pickups.
Oh, nice.
Just like real trashy. So that kind of stuff. Yeah, the Baldwin is doing the crazy stuff here. I think that's that's just like trippy
Whoa.
kind of noise. So yeah, it just felt like a cool, like someone let the airs out of the tires, in that
Yeah.
section. So that's pretty much the keys. They're it's pretty simple. Let's look at these drums and then we'll do like the vocals last
Cool.
maybe.
Yeah, sounds great.
So drums were like, I do kick is the 73, through the launcher through the 1073 guy. Snare top is these old me and Jay call them the Bob Barker mics. They're like AKG's dynamic mic from the 70s or something. That's like it's got this crazy top on it. The AKG D190Es is the model number, but I have like I think I have three. But they're my snare top and snare bottom. They're a little darker than an SM57. Um, and they just have such a cool like retro vibe without having to do anything else. Like just sounds a little bit more tapey
The
to me
snare
than like
top.
a 57. Yeah, I feel like 57 just sounds so familiar that I'm like, I always like the idea of something that sounds a little bit like
Yeah.
off. I snare top through the worm in the Launcher Deluxe, and then snare bottom is another one of those, but it's my Altec mixer, so it's like
Nice.
little dirtier. Yeah, it's the kick, nice and warm. I usually don't like a clicky kick. So the OptoComp is on the Stager mono overhead. I have all three set up on that triode orbit stand. So they're all
Nice.
like in phase. And then I think I'm doing ORTF for the Soyuz 13 FET pair. And that's kind of getting the stereo imaging. But yeah, this is just the mono ribbon getting like
Yeah.
compressed for sure. And then this is the stereo Soyuz pair of overheads. And these are actually just going through the Focusrite Claret
Claret. Nice.
preamps. Yeah, so these overheads and then my toms are both doing that because I just ran. I don't have that many hardware preamps, but I love that those preamp knobs are just like tactile. They're just on the outside.
Yeah,
Like I
they're
love
real
that so
knobs.
much.
Dude,
Yeah,
that
they feel
that
like you're just
line is such a
preamps.
sleeper. Yeah, that like whenever I was
Dude, they're
working there,
so good.
yeah,
And
like
I've never
at
had
that
any
time they
weird
had
connection
better.
issues.
Yeah, they're solid. You know, they're built on the Scarlett technology, so they've definitely figured that out. You know, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, the actual converter chips in that thing at that time were better than what were in the Apollo
Dude,
series. A lot of the
yeah.
other lines. Yeah, it's a solid
I'm a believer,
interface.
man. I think it. I love them. I have the Octopre and then the Claret Plus. So I have the 16 inputs. And also the thing that's super nice about the Claret, just like 8 pre, that's my main thing, is how many outputs there are, which that was a huge game changer because I have running those warm 1073s have there's a line in on the back. So I have that hardwired. So if someone sends me like an acoustic and some vocals as like a remote production thing I'm doing,
Hmm.
a lot of time I can just like instantly just like print it through the whole chain of like into the warm into the OptoComp
Oh, that's
just to
cool.
like yeah, and then it saves me like processing power of like just like plugins and like it's just nice to be like this is what I would have done if they were here, so I can just kind of like get that happening, and I can even print through my stereo tape echo set up here at the same time and just kind of like get that to already just kind of be like a vibe, and then some days sometimes I'll just step away and then come back like the next day and it'll be like oh yeah this is like sounds it just sounds so much fuller and bigger, and it's
Yeah,
easier to mix the stuff I am going to record here through the gear to it because I feel like sometimes it's this thing where it's like not compressed enough even with the plugins where you're like oh this other stuff has such a solid weight to it, and then the tracks I got remotely are just kind of like loud and then they disappear. It's like that, like they do really need it. So that's been a thing that's nice because there's like 8 outputs or something. I do think they eventually get shared with the headphone outputs I found. So like, like 7/8 maybe is also like one of
oh
the
yeah.
headphone. I don't know. So you got to like be careful about that. But yeah, I have my tape echoes hooked up and then the warm audio line inputs are hooked up permanently. So there's at least 4 I'm using for that stuff, which is great. Yeah, so this is the stereo overheads. They're definitely cleaner. Like if these were going through like a hardware preamp, I think they'd be a little fuller and dirtier, but hi-hats
These are
on the
the
left.
Soyuz
I always do
13s.
yeah, the fets, yeah. I always do drummer's perspective. So those two overheads together are just like such a full that's 3 mics. Because I used to be 3 mic drum guy and I just
I
do mono
know,
overhead
I
with the
know.
fat head.
We did a video of you as the one mic drum guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'll put
And
that
I love that so
in the
much.
description if you guys want to see how
Oh yeah,
Steve
yeah.
gets his one mic drum sounds.
With this little
Yeah, with
fella on a
that little
stick.
guy.
Mic on a stick. Um yeah, that was fun. And those drums, I was like, still listening to those, and I'm like, does that sound better than anything I've ever done, after or before? But yeah, there's toms, just some condenser mics. I like condensers on the toms, like like real t-shirts. So uh, there's like a single ply of t-shirts on the toms and on the snare drum, and then I have like a bandana, like a really thin, like tea towel type texture thing, with a hole punched in the middle inside the hi hat spilling out.
Oh,
So
like
like the drums
sandwiched
are
between the two cymbals of the
yeah,
hi hat.
yeah. And the thing that matters is
Oh,
that it's
interesting.
spilling out of the hi hats because it pulls down that. Um, like I'm not like predominantly a drummer, and I played everything on this obviously. So like playing a faster beat like that and trying to keep the hi hat volume low, so
Yeah.
it's not like so you could still get a good clear snare drum is really hard. Um, but it gets the hi hat so quiet, so it's actually really easy to just kind of like lean in a little bit more, and it like really puts it in. It just mixes it for you. It's like it's so
Wow.
much better than gating. So like it's like so contained,
Dude, I love that snare sound, man.
Yeah, that's just the old made in Japan. Funny enough, I just got some new wires for it when I bought that black sparkle snare drum I showed you. Because it's sometimes you can kind of hear it here. Sometimes the snares like sometimes I'll tape them because there's like one or two that just like go too long.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of.
Dude,
And I think when I
that's
hit the kick,
perfect.
it's so close to it. That's probably part of it. I love that snare though. It's been like my main thing for so long. Yeah, that's the drum. Pretty simple. I mean, it goes to like ride cymbal somewhere else here, but it just pretty straightforward. I didn't put like any plugins on the actual individual drums to just really um,
Did you do
try to
anything on the
keep them as
drum
like
bus?
no, like nothing. Like sometimes I'll do like the
This is
UAV,
so
like the
crazy.
Studer.
We
I know.
we have to do another episode where we're showing
No, we will.
because
Yeah.
it's so funny to me. I like
Usually
it's
there's a
interesting
lot.
because like you've crafted your palette here, right? And this
Mm,
everything you're showing me today is like built on commitment. Like you were like, this is the tone I want. Boom,
yeah.
it's in the box. It's done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to me that you're staying in your like within your color palette. If we keep using that
Yeah.
analogy,
Yeah.
with the crazy plug-in change that you're making too, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. So we'll do another episode where we dive into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have like a little bit of like Clevergrand's Haze plugin, which I use for mono sources I want to get stereo if I don't want them to sound chorusy, like with microshift. So that's on the room mic. It's really the room mic's pretty buried in this, but so that's like, and I think maybe the keys, funny enough, like I think that Korg had like microshift on it, Sound Toys, but then I little microshift, but then I panned it to the left anyway. So I'm like, what was that even doing?
Yeah,
So that's that's a funny thought because usually that's like a stereo trick. But yeah, I think honestly like when it's like a solo song for me, it's usually easier to kind of do a little less just because it's I can kind of just make it sound sort of more like the way I think I want it to sound. I think I have a clearer idea in the beginning versus sometimes when I start working with other people, it's like you don't necessarily know where you're going until and so you're kind of like steering the ship like
yeah,
later on more,
yeah.
and that's where the plugins are like a really helpful tool. um yeah, the vocals I used, the Soyuz 017 tube is definitely my favorite vocal mic. It just stays up permanently as that. And that same chain I talked about, the deluxe into the 1073. And then I printed my tape echoes on this on the way in. So I have two tracks that pop up here, and then there's a double. So I'll play like the two vocals together dry, and then I'll add in those echoes.
It's too late, they're already gone.
So they're like there's a little flanging happening because I didn't tune these vocals. If I do like one of the tricks I found that's helpful too for like some of these indie songs is letting like the verse vocals be not tuned, and then like sometimes tune the chorus because there's more chordal information that they have to
Interesting.
like fit in with. Like in this tune, I melodized the harmonies in the chorus because those like just kind of needed some love. But like the lead vocal isn't tuned unless there's like there's one funny chord later on where I tuned like one note. But this is with the echoes; they're pretty extreme. But
I guess they found what they're looking for.
so yeah, that's the echo
Take
fix
a breath, take anything.
and it's funny because the echo fix has a spring reverb built into it, which is sick. And the Space Echo I have does not, which I can't remember if I also have the Echo Fix spring reverb pedal. So sometimes to kind of like get the right side to match if I want to use reverb, I'll put that pedal after that Space Echo. Um,
So your
and I don't know if
left
I
and right you're doing for these is the actual Space Echo and
on
then
the
the Echo
desk.
Fix. Echo
Yeah.
Fix on the
So Echo
left,
Fix.
old
Yeah.
Space Echo on the right, sometimes with
Yeah,
the
so it's
pedal.
usually like murky on the right and like crispy on the left. But like I'll sometimes I'll use that Logic just like gain plugin. You can flip left and right. So sometimes I'll flip it if I do a double, but I think I just left them on this one.
Dude, this is such a
I
good
think
example of like my OCD would be like that would drive me crazy. I'm like, they're not going to match. They're not going to match. But
oh
that's like
yeah. No, I
exactly
think it's
like,
cooler.
exactly. Yeah. It's like, that's what makes like a lot of
Yeah.
that vintage music so good. It's like, if you
Yeah.
solo out, some of the multi tracks, or the
Yeah.
stems from back in the day, yeah, you'll hear people like coughing and, like shit's
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I
buzzing
think
and
my
stuff. And it's like,
yeah.
fuck, dude.
Yeah. I think you can hear the click track like really loud when that vocal starts too. I just noticed, but whatever, it's fine. Yeah, I think that like trying to get, I think that's a tricky balance. Is like you want, like if you want something to be stereo, it's like you kind of do want it to not be the same on
You're
both
right.
sides. I
Yeah.
think that's the like if you record a electric guitar, right? If I did like my whatever through the ABY box through like my Princeton and my AC-15 or whatever, it's still here. Like it's still not really stereo at all because like unless you're giving it different things. But then
Yeah.
if you do like the Strymon Flint pedal we put on the Mellotron at the other studio a lot, and I noticed I was like, whoa, this is like it might be doing the thing where tremolo is only on one side because then it's like super wide.
Mm.
It's like because those Mellotrons they're not stereo. It's the one tricky thing. So that's like I put mine through the Echo Fix, but at the other place I'll do like a Strymon reverb or something to get a little bit of
Yeah.
like image out of it, to sort of treat it like it's a synth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's these harmonies in the in this chorus. So it takes like a Doorsy spin here in this chorus, and it's like
all these days just seem to bleed into one another.
so
Take my hand, we'll go get out of here. Break the cycle we're under.
oh yeah, and then the bridge.
Singing for the band. Never got a clapping hand.
So like I probably turn the echoes up there a bit. Like you can kind of see, even visually see on that. I was trying to do a single vocal in the bridge, and then it was just getting washed out because I'm like really whispering it. But
Yeah.
you can see
Like
how much
that,
hotter
like half
this
spoken, half
echo.
sang.
Yeah. But yeah, this echo print here is so much hotter that I was like really leaning in there. But then there is a breakdown verse, which is actually a single vocal with the echoes. So like,
So clear now.
it's more like
Hope you
intimate.
know. It couldn't be
Oh.
another one.
That's the flute. That's the flute again. Yeah. So that's yeah, I think this one's pretty straightforward. It's I obviously there was a mix bus on here too that is off right now, but just it was a fun experiment to try to be like, because I'm on a laptop here. The other space I work in is a Mac studio, which is much better. But the goal is to be able to like get your computer to keep working, so it's
Yeah.
like it's nice to you always kind of you find the ceiling, with your plugins for sure, and it's nice to kind of just try to figure out like how good you can get it to sound like before you just start slapping the plugins on.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was a pretty eye-opening experiment just because I finished it so quick, and then I was like, and honestly everything that I've written this is a third thing because you and I have worked together on that Fade Away song, and then I worked with Vox on I was like, what if I sing through the amp? And I used that AKG mic and I sang through the AC-15, and I was like, this sounds so sick. Like, why have I not been doing this? And that was that song Some Folks I put out before this one. And I was like, man, there's something kind of fun about, like, these lyrics probably don't mean anything because I just kind of just like phonetically like was like, I gotta sing something.
Yeah.
But then they start to kind of feel like they mean something later, that
Yeah.
thing that it's a really it's fun to not overthink it and to
Yeah.
just like really just be like, and there's just something so fun about being like, I made this today. Like that's so
Yeah.
rad that this is now done.
And I've got this
Um,
cool thing to look at. And it's like going back through it like
yeah.
this, you probably are like rediscovering it. It's like you were just in the
Oh
moment, just
yeah.
doing stuff. And you're like, oh,
Yeah. I forgot about the
this is
phaser
kind of cool.
guitar
I
until
did
my
this.
buddy, yeah, one of my buddies like commented on it when I put the song on. He's like, phaser. And I was like, what? And I like I don't even know what pedal that was, but it's one of three things, you know? Um,
Well,
but yeah, I feel like, some hardware still, if you can scrape the pennies together, it's like I think all of us are. It's not like we're not paying nothing for the plugins, you know.
right. Yeah.
That to just kind of like, I think the amount of like so many of us are recording one input over and over, no matter
Right.
what studio you're
Yeah.
in. Like there's that one input that gets used and used and used and used, and so here it is, the launcher 1073 Audioscape at Jay's place. A lot of times it's UTA preamp into a Chandler RS124, like the modified Altec
Mm,
compressor, the gray one. That's kind of my go-to there. So I think you kind of find that like desert island chain that's pretty much just sounds the best, that could
yeah.
be used for every instrument. And it's nice to like finally have a hardware compressor here to be like, oh, yeah. Like that saves me so much plug-in power. Because I was using like the UA native LA-2A a lot, or the Fairchild, or things like that, or like Clevgren makes a Corv presser that's rad and super like modern feeling, but sounds really good. Um, so it's just nice to like already be that much closer to
Yeah.
um, a finished product without having to just like the session crashing,
Yeah.
just trying to stay inspired and like actually want to keep like, because then all those fun like little parts come out, all the fun like those guitars getting all busy in the chorus. Like I think I would have, um, it's nice to be able to not get so bogged down with
Yeah.
some of that stuff. So
Now we know how
um,
our grandfathers felt producing their beats.
yeah,
You know?
yep. Producing their beats.
Well, cool, man. This was really fun. I'm looking forward to the
Yeah,
next
dude.
one. So, everybody, one of the main things about this series that we want to do is have audience participation. So, anytime you have questions for me or Steve, just drop them in the comments. We'll address them in the next video. And
Yeah. If you guys have any questions on like stuff on this song or anything we talked about too, I love nerding out. If there's anything that I missed, or you have like more questions on stuff, let me know. There's also check out the Audioscape video that I did, that with the same song. Yeah, let's link that one for sure, because that's got some more of like showing the actual instruments, and um, watching the needle move and sometimes not move at all.
when you
So
just need that collar.
yeah, and I'm like, did I move it right? In my
Should we
mind, it's the shutter speed of the camera.
are you cool with letting people download some multi tracks and practice mixing or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. Maybe I'll do like the buses of them or something like that to
Cool.
make it simple, or however you want to do it. But
I
yeah,
think
you
I
let me
think
know.
yeah, as raw as possible, so they can hear,
Yeah.
which I mean that's like basically the whole mix here.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, if they want to hear, what each track sounds like with the chains we talked about
Yeah. Maybe
going
I'll
through the
stem them. Yeah,
OptoComp.
I'll stem them out.
Okay, yeah,
Hmm.
sweet. Well, that'll be
Yeah,
in the
I'm down.
description too. And thank you
Sweet.
everybody for watching. Do the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
Make sure to hit subscribe, like, all that to catch the next video. And
Oh yeah.
thank you, Steve. Excited to have you here, man.
Heck yeah, dude.
Play
Make
us
sure I'm in
out.
the screen
Play
with
us
my
out,
thumbs up.
Stevie.
Oh yeah. Let's listen to that first verse. I think that first verse is nice.
Yeah,
Where is it?
it's a
Here we
nice
go.
outro.